Hi, today we are looking at issue 7 of X-Men, written by Jed MacKay, penciled by Netho Diaz, inked by Sean Parsons and Livesay, and colored by Marte Gracia Fer Sifuentes-Sujo. Full spoilers ahead, so you're forewarned. This is not what I was expecting. And while there were a couple of good things in this issue, there's also a completely wrong thing. And in my opinion, a majorly wrong one. So let's focus on the good and not so bad stuff in this issue first. Top of the list is how Psylocke pointed out to Temper that she's not acting as part of the team when she and Magic brought Piper to the factory last issue. I think Psylocke is correct here. If this is a school, sure, invite someone over. But this is the X-Men HQ, and the sentiments of the town folks aren't exactly friendly towards the X-Men. So perhaps err on the side of caution, or at the very least, let the team leader know what you are doing or intended to do. Hi, Richard Tyler here. Magic deserved to take some of the blame too, since she basically left it up to Temper to make the decision last issue. I like that Psylocke said, those things in a matter of fact way and called out Temper, but, as her mutant name implied, Temper has a temper. That is going to come back in the future. But it is also nice to see Temper being kind with Piper and sort of, pay it forward since she was a frightened mutant when Storm and Hope found her. Agree. The initial chat between Cyclops and Magneto was also kind of interesting, I would say, with Max categorizing Scott's wallowing as Logan's behavior. While I do not wholly agree with that comparison, I mean, I will let that pass. Perhaps the drinking shit bill part, is Logan-like. I do like that it was Max who kicked some sort of sense into Scott, though, and I had a laugh when Max told Scott not to pick apart his rhetorics. I also quite enjoy how quickly and effectively Cyclops and Magneto took out the Wild Sentinel, reminding me a little bit of the mutant circuit of sorts. The Wild Sentinel, though, is something that is, I think, wrong here. The AUKUS Sentinels are based on stock tech, which I assume will be what's left behind in the factory, and not some older version of Sentinel tech. So now on to the bad, and it is a major one. The current Magneto was not resurrected by the Five. Like, at the very least, someone, MacKay or the editors, should have read Resurrection of Magneto and took notes. I mean, just in case you're wondering, this is not an obscure minor details that happened in 1988 in a random issue of Marvel Comics Presents. This is literally the whole point of a mini-series that was released less than a year ago. I cannot fathom how they got this wrong. I kind of wanted to give MacKay and the editorial team some benefit of the doubt here, but I cannot think of anything that they had shown us or hinted at in the past 6 issues that would suggest that perhaps this Max was indeed resurrected by the Five. I mean, he removed copies of himself from the creators since X-Men Red issue 4. So even if this is deliberately wrong, and that Max is a clone or a duplicate copy somehow, it will be extremely difficult to place in the timeline. In addition, Max was resurrected by the Five twice, not once, as Max claimed. So, I mean, well, yeah, the first time was only mentioned in the data page. Well, let me remind you of that horrible Xavier retcon in the Infinity Comics, and the possibility that maybe there is indeed such a copy in a Krakoa no place or something. And speaking of, it also does not explain how Magneto is powerless in the Infinity Comics story. Well, unless he's not using his powers there because he's afraid of losing control. Okay. And also, my initial knee-jerk reaction to the Resurrection Link Degenerative Sickness, or the RLDS, is that this is kind of shitting on Krakoa, and it got me really, really upset. True, and understandable, right? But as Cyclops said, that is just an initial guess, and this is a less knowledgeable Hank, so he could be wrong. My main issue is not with RLDS, because as presented here, that is just a possibility, but I would probably rage if it became a fact. I have a much larger issue with the fact that Magneto's most recent resurrection has nothing to do with the Five. So one last thing, I'm not sure how Beast missed the fact that Corpse is a mutant, unless she's not a mutant, but is something else. But that opens up another question. Who is the Wild Sentinel going for then, if not Piper? I'm kind of neutral with the art in this issue. It is neither very good nor very bad. I do not want to say average because I like certain aspects of the art, like say the background details and the wild sentinels. Especially the wild sentinels. I like all the gribbles, to borrow a Lego term that is used to describe like small details on Lego spaceships to get a more complex look. But I also dislike some of the weird poses and like face. I do not disagree. It is weird because the same thing can fall into both categories. For example, I like Magneto's cape in the first splash page, but disliked it in another panel with him flying. Not to mention the weird like neck craning in that same panel. Um, the same goes for faces. Some straight-on shots of the faces looks good, but some profile shots looks really weird, such as the panel with Scott and Max, in which both of them appears to have like a jutting chin of some sort. I also think maybe because we have two different inkers, the art changes slightly, especially if you know, I noticed that the weight of the ink line is different between the two inkers. So it can be a little bit distracting, though I think, maybe it's more of a me problem. Much as I wanted to enjoy this, I cannot get past the major bad here. The good in this issue does not make up for, the mistakes. It is a 2.5 out of 5 for me, and that is me being generous. Agree. It is a little disappointing, given that the previous two issues were on an improving trajectory. So, if you had enjoyed this title so far, you will continue to enjoy it. But if you have not, this issue will very likely not change your opinion. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and a subscribe if you have not already done so. Share this with your friends and leave us a comment. Thanks, and Tyler out.